Capitalism is based on rational choice theory. Rational choice theory is a mathematic formulation that has demonstrable benefits in terms of avoiding simple errors in judgment and decision making. It's undergoing some revision because some of the biases and errors that we make can be understood and improve those formulas. But there are two assumptions underlying rational choice that are assumptions. They're not part of the mathematics, they're assumptions. One is short-term interest and the other is selfish interest. You do what's good for you. And it's as society becomes more complex, as scientific inquiry becomes more complex, as daily living becomes more complex, coordinating our efforts together, working so that we can trust one another, specialize. I can count on you to do A and I'll do B, and together A and B are more than the sum of the parts. That kind of problem solving would suggest selfish interests is an assumption that may have outlived its usefulness, that it's not about being pure altruist. It's about coming up with something where you relate to other people in a fashion where everybody benefits more, where the sum is greater than the total is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's just an assumption. If we put that assumption in the rational choice theory, all of a sudden capitalism looks a little bit different. We look for sustainability, we look for things that are good for the community as well as for the company. And you see such efforts. Southwest Airline is just one airline that was built caring as much about their employees as the customers. And Southwest has been something of a business success stories. Some of the Asian companies are similarly constructed around a concern for the community and the employees, not just the stockholders. And that is, again, they want to serve stockholders, but they want to serve beyond stockholders. And those are, again, some of the real success stories. So I think we're seeing precedents set. And it's not a denial of rational choice theory. It's really just a questioning of one of the assumptions underlying it. And I think there's good reason to pursue what might be done with capitalism with that assumption changed. At the University of Chicago, I work with some economists, and one of the things that we look at are the errors people make in judgment. 35 years ago, economists never assumed in rational choice that people were rational. They assumed that irrationality was so irrational as to be random. And economics isn't about predicting an individual behavior. That's the domain of psychology. Economics is about predicting aggregate behavior. Well, if I have complete irrationality that's random, that's just like noise, and I average over many such random noise, that sums to zero. So you're left with just rationality. I think what the last 30 years of research, and particularly current research in behavioral economics and in neuroeconomics, is showing is that the irrationality is systematic. It's not always random. There are systematic biases that we introduce. One of the biases that people show is if they want an outcome to be true, they overestimate the odds versus if they don't want the outcome to be true. And so that's a bias that once you realize, you can tweak the mathematics just so that it's more representative of how humans actually think and behave. I think our research on what's fundamental about human nature has implications for how we live our lives and how businesses conduct research. There is a sense in which bringing these teams together with different expertise gives you the opportunity to attack problems, come up with more creative solutions than not, because of the complexity you need those different levels of expertise. But bringing people together isn't sufficient. Overcoming loneliness isn't about just connecting with another person, it's connecting at a deep level that's reinforcing for both individuals. Businesses, if they understand that principle, can understand that bringing experts together isn't sufficient. It's bringing experts together and allowing them or promoting their connection so that it's beyond what would you normally would get? So just to give you an example in the research domain, I've been a member of research teams where we would fly into a vicinity, we'd meet. Once I flew to Bergen, Norway, which was a long flight. We met in some hotel meeting room for 2 days and then flew home. I have no idea what Norway looked like. It was one of the most miserable meetings. I was just jet lagged. That's all it was. And I'm sure we got something from the meeting, but not very much. There are other meetings. I run a large interdisciplinary team of wonderful, wonderful colleagues. The research in the book is really representing the work of many different scientific disciplines and expertise. And when we come together to meet, we meet off campus, first of all. And we meet off campus because when we're on campus, we're busy. I mean, we all have things going on, and it's hard to disconnect our minds from our students and our colleagues and other demands. When we go off campus, we also bring family with us. And we have meetings only for about 6 hours a day, and we have formal gatherings as a group. We eat together, we break bread together, we go on outings together, we go for walks together in various sub-pairings. And what that allows you to do is, rather than saying, this is what I know, and promoting that, you start to like these people, you start to understand and want to understand more about their perspective. And so rather than relying just on what we all already agree so we can get out of here, you say, well, okay, that's what we all think, but that's the common knowledge that we all had. That's not actually taking advantage of the expertise that's unique. And really the reason we're all here is because of the unique knowledge, not the common knowledge. That takes longer. And that unique knowledge starts to come out on these walks, and it starts to come out in the meetings after you've done those walks. Because it's not about coming to a quick solution, it's about coming to a playful. Let's say, well, tell me what you might know, and why would you think that? I mean, and I'm not attacking you in that, I'm actually curious in that. So all of a sudden, the language differences and the disciplinary differences are easier to bridge. And I think that's in that lesson in science, there's a lesson for businesses as well, to bring together expertise. And that expertise may be different parts of the product line, or it may be labor versus management. Different interest, expertise, how does one transcend and really do something that's better for everybody in the long term? Because that's what I think the secret of our species is. We're very good at coming up with those new kind of social constructs. If you look at the emperor penguin, they require huddles to get through the winter. Right? They get together in this collective, and without that collective, none of them would survive. Right? That's the vehicle for genetic transmission, is this group that's bigger than the individual. That's the only collective unit. Humans have many such collectives, and we can create them and recreate them on a moment-by-moment basis. And so the real talent and capacity comes from how do we configure those so that they're productive.